Hi guys, Mr. Todd here. We're going to be continuing on with our topic 2.4. This particular video, we're going to be looking at the state building in Africa. Sometimes we kind of have this misconception that Africa was just a bunch of tribes or something, and we're going to see that's really not the case, especially when we get to this point in world history, round about the year 1000 to 1500 or so. I want to remind you that for this topic, you should have done notes on the Mongols already, and then you're doing just one of the other cultures. So if you did the Mongols in the Americas, then you don't need to do notes over this video. And if you've done the Mongols and now you've finished this video, you don't need to do ones over the Muslim world or the Americas. Now, one thing I should point out about Africa is that it's kind of divided culturally for the most part. It's like sub-Saharan Africa and North Africa. North Africa being more part of the Muslim world. And so we're going to hit that more in the final video of the series. We're going to be looking in this video kind of at what's going on in West Africa and what's going on in East Africa for the most part. And so within each of these, I think it's important to know Africa is very much part of the Afro-Eurasian trading networks. That's why it's called Afro-Eurasia. So there's kind of two different big trading networks. You've got the Trans-Saharan trade routes, sometimes called the sand roads because it's going across the Sahara Desert. That really connects the resources like gold from West Africa to salt and other resources and spices and those kind of things coming from the Middle East and Europe and that kind of stuff. Um, the On the eastern half of Africa, they're part of the Indian Ocean trade networks because they're on the Indian Ocean. So we're going to see a lot of wealth and development between people trading from China all the way down to Zimbabwe and stuff. Interestingly, Africa is very, very large. Kind of, there's not a whole lot of trade going on between the West Africa and East Africa. And when we think of kind of tribal Africa, that's kind of what we think of more this in the Central Africa, kind of down into the Southern Africa region. But when we look at in our next video, North Africa, West Africa, and East Africa, much, much more civilizations we're kind of used to studying. Um, in addition to gold that's getting kind of traded in the Indian Ocean, the other big thing that's being traded is slaves. Some of those slaves are coming from Africa, some of them are coming from India. But there's estimates that as many people are going to get traded in the Eastern slave trade as are going to get sold in the Atlantic slave trade that we saw in topic 2.3. So it's an unfortunate part of what's going on during this time period as well. Um, so we're going to kind of zoom in now on West Africa. In particular, we're going to look at the Kingdom of Mali. Mali, it's not on the coast, but it has a hugely significant part of it is kind of focused on um, the trans-Saharan trade routes. Lots and lots of gold, lots and lots of goods being traded back and forth along that way. And so the most famous Malian ruler of the time is Mansa Musa. There's estimates he was the richest person of all time. And because they're part of this trading network, we're going to see in our next video, Islam very much valued merchants. And so a lot of Islam is spread by merchants. So a lot of West Africa becomes Muslim. Um, and with that, Mansa Musa is going to become a Muslim. And part of the five pillars of Islam is that you should make a pilgrimage to Mecca, which is on the Arabian Peninsula. So, richest guy in the world's got to make a pilgrimage. He's going to make a show of it. And so he's going and he's spreading all this gold around. And it really is going to show the wealth of Mali. And that's going to increase European interest in Mali, which is going to have some pretty bad unintended consequences. A positive of Mansa Musa, though, is definitely he's so wealthy that he's able to invest in the education, the arts, much as we're going to see wealthy people in Europe do. When we get to the Renaissance, the Malians and the West Africans are going to beat them to the punch by about 100 years. And we're going to see a similar thing happen across the Muslim world again before we see it in Europe. So there's Mansa Musa there. So on the other side of the peninsula, or the continent, I should say, is what's going on in East Africa. So East Africa is kind of very, very diverse. Up in Ethiopia, you've got a unique bit of Christianity that kind of was spread during the time of early Christianity, but then kind of gets cut off from the rest of the Christian world. So Ethiopian Christianity sometimes called the Coptics. We're going to focus on what's going on in Zimbabwe. In particular, they had this kingdom called Great Zimbabwe, and it's probably the most developed civilization in Africa at the time. But we really don't know a ton about it because it ends up getting abandoned because essentially the city grew so big that they overused that agricultural land until the city had to be abandoned. These are massive, like 20, 30-foot tall stone walls. And because Zimbabwe is near the Indian Ocean, it's part of that trade network, very, very wealthy. Another chunk of it is going to be kind of the islands off of East Africa, kind of these kind of very diverse, kind of cosmopolitan, cultural, and very, very rich cities. And that's what we kind of call Swahili. Um, in the case of Great Zimbabwe, it was discovered after it had already been abandoned. And one of the sad features of it, when the Europeans discovered it a couple hundred years after it had been abandoned, um, they assumed that there's no way Africans could have built it. And the reason they did it was because these Europeans were racist at the time. So they tried to come up with all these crazy theories that it was like the lost tribe of Israel had gone down and built it. And we know now from history it was absolutely built by Africans. It was absolutely an incredible feat of accomplishment. It's a very, very wealthy part of the world. Just kind of closing out, Africa is very, very involved in the world at this time, super involved in trade. We kind of, unfortunately, in world history, sometimes we ignore what was going on in the Indian Ocean. So, again, very, very developed trade network there affecting East Africa. In West Africa, we have that trans-Saharan trade route. So again, connection to what we're going to see going on in the Middle East and the rest of the Muslim world. Advanced civilizations that are able to advance because they have money to invest because of their trade, because of gold. And then we're going to see kind of, we're not going to see the large empires like we saw in Latin America, like we're going to see with the Mongols, and like we're going to see in the Muslim world. So it's more decentralized, smaller kingdoms, city-states, that kind of thing. And then definitely in parts of Africa is also still kind of that tribal nature. We're also not going to see the religious unity across the continent like we're going to see in Europe is very, very predominantly Christian. We're going to see in Africa a huge diversity. So you've got kind of tribal, traditional religions, kind of animus of spirit. We see huge chunks of Islam. We see pockets of Christianity. So very, very diverse going on there. So hopefully this helps, guys. Again, if you finish this out, you finish your mangas, you are done with topic 2.5.